Hello everyone, it is Sunday the 15th of January. Welcome back to the D3D4 football podcast dedicated to all things Leagues 1 and 2. We're halfway through January, we're halfway through the January window. There's been some good business already, I think, in the third and fourth tiers, League 2 in particular, and one particular saga in the fourth tier that I'm very keenly keeping my eye on for the rest of this window as well. We have had games, of course, this weekend. Not the full slate, a couple of postponements, one of them being Cambridge United against Morecambe. Apparently, damage to the main stand at the Abbey Stadium is the reason why they got called off.
Their roof picked up an injury.
Yeah, there's a rumour going around that you could see Mark Bonner running away with a toolkit afterwards, but... Don't know if that's true or not. And the other game, of course, Orley, Doncaster in League 2 postponed because of waterlogged pitch. And we've got a game on Monday night as well between Port Vale and Peterborough United at Vale Park, which should be a pretty tasty affair as well between two teams who actually aren't too far off the players' places. So that'll be a game to watch and enjoyable for sure. But we're going to run through what happened yesterday, and there's three of us here to do it. It is myself, Edward Walker, joined by Chris Stringer and James Richards. How are we doing, Chris?
Yeah, not too bad. As I was saying before, a bit tired from lugging boxes up and down various flights of stairs as I'm moving at the moment, but otherwise very well.
How desperate you must be for a lift in that place, eh?
Well, there is a lift, it just doesn't work.
Always. It's like the Big Bang Theory, isn't it? You know, that lift down the middle that never worked for that, if anyone's ever seen that. James, yourself?
Not too bad myself. Unfortunately, it's been a stressful weekend at home with my wife picking up COVID, so quite poorly throughout yesterday and the night. So not wonderful, but 3 points for Oxford in a difficult game at Fleetwood was pleasing, to be honest.
And we'll touch on that later on, of course. A reminder before we get going, this podcast is in partnership with The Big Step that tackles football's relationship with gambling. There is an excessive presence of gambling adverts within football, and The Big Step continues to do great work to raise awareness about the dangers of gambling and the impact it can have on so many people's lives. A big thank you as well to all our Patreon members. Those who sign up for as little as just £1 per month can get access to additional D3D4 daily podcast episodes throughout the week. They are produced by James and they focus in depth on individual clubs and provide previews to some of the most eye-catching fixtures in League 1 and League 2 each weekend. You can sign up for that now at patreon.com/D3D4football. We won't waste any more time. We'll get going and we'll begin, as always, with the world's best third tier.
League 1.
League 1, we're going to kick this off with the biggest win in the third tier of the weekend. So to do that, we have to go to the Pirelli Stadium. Burton Albion 0, Shrewsbury Town 4. I was going to start by saying this is as bad as it gets for the Brewers, but then I remembered A, the 5-0 exists, and B, there's still 20 games left, so I'm not going to do it on this occasion. This was really, really bad though. We've spoken before about the concerns we actually have around Shrewsbury Town. They've got a relatively small core of senior players. You suffer a couple of long-term absentees into there and it can hit them pretty hard. They've been on a run of three straight defeats in the league. They've lost 4 in all competitions, but they rocked up to Burton-on-Trent yesterday and they cruised to what is their biggest win of the entire season so far. They went to goal up inside 18 seconds in this game, and it was from Burton's own kickoff. That's how bad it was for the Brewers yesterday. Just a ball over the ridiculously high back line, something we've seen previously on New Year's Day at Morecambe, actually. Jordan Amisa, the goalkeeper, comes out. He clatters into Christian Sadie, which is essentially like running into a brick wall. Sadie's that strong. And Sadie just rolls the loose ball into the empty net. James, Sadie's the bane of my existence at the moment. Honestly.
Yeah,
he was on loan at Burton in the second half of last season. Didn't score a goal. He's got 6 this season out of Shrewsbury. 3 of those have come in 2 games against Burton Albion. Typical.
It just had to happen.
He got second before.
Making you cry. That's his his second job, basically.
I don't like it. I thought Sam Smith's job was that, but it turns out it's Christian Sadie instead. Yeah, Sadie got second before our time as well, capitalising on the fact that Burton are seemingly just incapable of clearing the lines at the moment to score his. Add to that a Luke Leahy second half penalty and a Che Dunkley header from a corner right at the end. And what an afternoon to Salop. I've got to mention Crystal Palace lonely Killian Phillips as well, who caught the eye on his first league start playing an attacking midfield in a 3-4-1-2 formation. I think we've been shown there that the 5-0 lead at Morecambe to Burton was not a fluke. They can actually be this bad on more than one occasion. They got Lincoln City next at Sincil Bank. If that ends up being a heavy defeat as well, boys, I'm going to have to go and find the third tier record for most goals conceded in a season. Because this lot at this rate, are going to run that close, whatever that total is.
There was a
dreadful
spell in
start to
the
year.
National League. Yeah, they're reminding me of Barnet, who had a spell in the National League this season where in 4 games they conceded, I think it was 20 goals.
Yes,
in a
I
spell
remember
of 4 straight.
Yeah.
And although they've suddenly been able to improve,
But that run did end,
yeah,
right? Please tell me it ended.
It did. Yeah, they did start playing better, which is a relief. But my goodness me, not good for Burton. And in games where, like, they'll be targeting this one because Shrewsbury had been on a bad run and were sort of falling down the table a bit. They'd have been targeting this as an opportunity. And yeah, they not only did they not take it, but they completely flopped and allowed Shrewsbury to get a heavy, a big win for them and a heavy defeat for Burton.
Great afternoon to Shrewsbury Town, but I hate to be honest and say it probably gets more difficult from now. I'm not sure they'll get an easier win for the rest of the season.
It reminds me of that bit, the way you're speaking about it, that bit in the Simpsons movie where Bart's going, this is the worst day of my life.
The worst day of your life so far. Yeah,
it
feels like that at the minute, yeah. Lincoln's going to be interesting next weekend for sure. But we'll move on. James, Cheltenham Town 2, Derby County 3.
Yeah, Derby County hitting some really good form. 12 unbeaten in the league, I believe it is. And just, they to be honest, what's impressive here is they got off to an awful start. Caleb Taylor heading his first senior goal for Cheltenham, putting them in front. Great effort from Circum in midfield. Showed real desire to win the ball back, and then definitely floated in cross and a great header. But Derby rebounded pretty well, and I think under the current management of Warne, they're looking a lot better than they have previously, and I think they're slowly starting to build something with this squad. I liked the way that they play the ball. You look at Warne and you thought he's quite a pragmatic manager. So at Rotherham, you wouldn't necessarily say they always played the most attractive football, but actually Derby played some really good stuff in this game. The equaliser kind of just mirrors that. The lovely passing move across the back to beat the press. Diagonal ball by Cashin that found Mendes Lang on that right hand side. He just did a quick step over and cross, which found Conor Hourihane to head the equaliser. Then Max Bird, I don't know what you call this. Some people called it a thunderbolt. Some people called it a thunder bastard. It was just an absolute rocket of an
I don't
effort
think
from
Max Bird has ever scored a goal from less than 35 yards.
He does like to hit.
He does like hitting from range, yeah.
But it was a great hit, and it was still rising as it hit the net, and it's probably, you could argue, it's only the second best goal potentially in the division this weekend when we talk about Will Volks at Wycombe. But I mean, there's very similar goals and a really good strike. And then, I have to say Cheltenham were missing Charlie Raglan suspended. Obviously, Lewis Freestone's done his meniscus on his knee. They were talking about maybe taking it out or trying to have an operation, but it's going to be a while for him to get back. So they had Tom Bradbury come in. Obviously, he hasn't played much this season, came in from Halifax in the summer and has been on the periphery of things, but they needed to call him into the back line with Taylor and Sam Long. And I thought they played quite well, but I think, they gifted Derby the third when I think it was Ryan, was it Ryan Broom who gave the ball away?
Yeah, that was ruthless from Barkhazen, was my opinion, just taking the ball, full intent to just advance a goal and slide it past him. Yeah,
it's a good finish. And they've got good quality players in key positions. I still think Sibley and Smith as their fullbacks is wonderful because they're both midfielders by trade, really, and they're playing as wing backs and being very effective, getting forward, offering a lot going forward from wide positions. But Caleb Taylor and Alfie May combined for what ended up being a consolation goal. Not easy place to go, Cheltenham. I thought they put in a really good performance here, despite the fact that they'll be disappointed with the nature of the third goal that they conceded. 8 wins at home at Portman Road this season, but it's a third straight defeat now, so they'll want to snap this losing run quickly because, like we've discussed, this is not a closed shop anymore in those relegation places. There are teams picking up points, so Cheltenham will need to be a bit careful. Will Goodwin has come in from Stoke on a permanent transfer. He was on loan at Torquay earlier this season. It'd be interesting to see how he does. I think he was at Barrow for a spell last year. And had a decent partnership for a very brief spell at the start of the season with Tyler Berry. But we'll see. If he can strike up a bit of a partnership with Alfie May, that would be good. I know they want to bring in a few more players. Not really sure about Derby and their transfers, but one thing is for sure, if they can keep hold of Aaron Cashin, they'll be laughing because he's a superb defender, still really quite young.
He loves a diag as well, doesn't he? There was a great ball out to Mendes Lang before the equaliser.
He does, and he's just grown this season into such a key player for them. One of the best defenders, I think, in my opinion, in the third tier. So a big shout out to him because he's been brilliant. And Derby, surprisingly, 3 straight league wins for the first time this season and the first time since December 2021. So they are a threat, and they will be. You need to keep an eye on them because I think they're playing well and they're chasing down the top guys. I don't know if they'll ever get close because obviously the consistency, as we've discussed with these top teams, but a great victory for them. Maybe a bit too squeaky than they'd have liked at the end, but they'll take that. They'll take that. They
definitely want to keep an eye on at the moment. And I think another one to keep an eye on as well are the team directly below them in the table, Bolton Wanderers. They beat Portsmouth 3-0 yesterday. It's a case of deja vu for these two sides. They met only on Tuesday night in the U-Bowl as well. That was the quarterfinals of the EFL Trophy. Bolton won that game 1-0. They bossed this one even more. It's been an interesting January, I think, so far for the Trotters. Randall Williams signed permanently from Hull City. We love him. We absolutely love him.
We do.
A flying wing back down either side. This 3-4-1-2 ever plays such a great fit for him as well. The fact that they can have him now and Connor Bradley as the wing backs, I think is a problem for anyone. That's a great pair to have. They got a Dan Unlandula as well, mentioning Cheltenham, on loan from Southampton. He was at Cheltenham in the first start of the season. Made his debut from the bench yesterday. Amadou Bakayoko has been sold to Forest Green Rovers. There's a lot of talk that Dapo Athalion could be off before the end of the window. It'd be a shame to lose a player like him with the ability he has, but I think I'd certainly back Everett to find a replacement that wouldn't make his loss still significant. I do want to...
Interesting transfer, wasn't it? St. Pauli's the team, isn't it? In Germany's Bundesliga 2. Is that right? They're looking to sign Dapo Athalion?
Yeah, could well be. I'm
pretty sure they're famous for, of course, being a kind of left-wing radical, kind of club in Hamburg, which is, they've got a cult following, and they actually were in the Bundesliga a few years ago, I seem to remember, and beat Hamburg in the derby. So that'll be an interesting one if he gets to move out to Germany and progress his career.
Jackson Irvine out there as well, the world's best Australian midfielder, but he didn't hit out for me. I want to quickly mention Johan Toole as well, 23-year-old centre-back, picked up from Derry City in the summer. He's been playing mostly on the right side of Bolton's back three recently. He's looking really, really, really good. The licence that Ian Evatt gives him to come towards some defence is being rewarded as well. He's got 2 goals across his last 5 games. Scored the 3rd goal yesterday in the win over Portsmouth, finishing off what was a really slick move with a nice finish from the edge of the box after being laid off. Ricardo Santos, their giant defenders, back making squads as well now. It's looking really good to see for Bolton at the moment. Pompey just desperately need to sort themselves out, really, don't they? We don't know yet who their new manager's going to be. They've been hit by some departures recently as well, probably most notably being Joshua Griffiths, who's seen his loan from West Bromwich Albion brought to an end. Josh Caroma's gone back to Huddersfield Town as well. The team that played yesterday with their current form, it just isn't good enough to compete with Bolton as far as I'm concerned. I mean, the first goal conceded yesterday to Dion Charles was a mess. Really bad defending. The second not much better, with the standing goalkeeper Josh Oluwayemi dropping across. I've seen some Portsmouth fans mention relegation battle. Is that a bit over the top?
Yeah, it is, but I don't get what the Portsmouth board have been playing at, because they've got rid of Cowley, and I probably would have given him to the end of the season, but I can understand why they've done it. Fair enough. But going into a January transfer window, I know they have a director of football, but it seems really strange to get rid of a manager without a plan for who to bring in, or at least have someone sort of vaguely lined up. It seems really messy. I don't get why they've done it.
I don't understand quite what's going on. I mean, the goalkeeper situation was out of their hands. I feel a bit for them on that one, because they did have the option though, because Oluwayemi is actually still quite young, so they could have brought in an emergency loan. Mm-hmm. They were considering it, so I don't know why they didn't potentially do that, just to give themselves that option. I don't like Pompey in a back three particularly either. No. It's not suited them. Ronan Curtis has been desperately out of form. If you think how good he was just like last season and then maybe the season before, how he was being linked with some moves to the championship clubs. He's been anonymous this season. They've missed Tom Lowry for sure in midfield, but I don't think you can use that as an excuse. And they got Riley Towler in, and I would have much preferred to see him play at the back, maybe in a back four. In terms of who you go for, they've been linked with Liam Manning. I mean, look, I'm not being unfair to Liam Manning, but he's just proved that he couldn't find a way of turning around a struggling team in MK Dons, I would not bring him into this current situation. I would look at getting Mark Warburton, personally. I think he was unlucky to be dismissed by QPR. He's got great experience. He'll play the kind of football that I think Portsmouth fans will appreciate. And he's good at getting the best out of people. It's whether or not you can attract him, I guess, is the problem.
It's very interesting to see who comes into Fratton Park now, but probably need to sort themselves out, and pretty quickly, because January is quickly coming to an end. Chris, we'll move on. Accrington Stanley 2, Bristol Rovers 0.
Yeah, a little bit of a surprise, this one, I think. Stanley going into this with no wins in 4, and it turned out to be their first home win since October. First one, sort of a nicely worked bit of play with a ball in from Longeld, and then sort of knocked down and Lee smashing away. And then the second one from Astley, 79 minutes in, corner in from McConville, and then it was again Rogers who got the assist, who headed it sort of back across goal, and Astley finished. Rovers played well, but they never really threatened enough. I don't think they were really creating enough clear chances, and I think you could probably fairly describe this as a bad day at the office for them, but not too disheartening for them, and they're still very much in the sort of discussion for the playoff places, I think.
It did look like handball, though.
It was handball. Opener. We played basketball with it. He could have gotten the Golden State Warriors doing that.
It was very, very close to his arm, let's say.
And then what did you make of the decision not to send off, was it the Accrington?
It was Harvey Rogers.
Harvey Rogers, yeah. I don't know. I thought maybe I'd give the ref the benefit of doubt for that one, but for the handball, I thought that's poor. He was in a great position as well to see what the player, I think it was Lee actually who handled it. I'm not sure, but I think Seamus Keneally's done pretty well playing centre back given the injury problems that Accrington have got, frankly. And Joe Pritchard is a big miss, but this is a huge win for them. They
mentioned Presley as well, who I admit I was a bit critical of when he arrived because I didn't think much of him at Wimbledon. I think he's settled in fairly well at the minute up top with Sean Wally.
He has. Didn't he score in was it a trophy game?
He got a couple of goals in midweek in their victory over Lincoln on penalties in the EFL Trophy, yes.
That's it. Yeah. So let's see. I mean, they need bodies in there because they've been short of numbers, especially
very weak squad in it at the moment.
It is, and that's why I think this 3 points. You never lift a gift horse in a mouse, do you? I mean, you take this all day long.
I mean, even after that win, they're only 1 point outside the drop zone, albeit with a game in hand on most of them. But it's a real psychological boost, I think, especially when Bristol Rovers have looked so strong.
2 shots on target for Accrington, 2 goals. I mean, Bristol Rovers. Bobby Thomas surprisingly recalled from loan and then loaned out to Barnsley by Burnley. That was something that took me by surprise. I mean, I'm not saying Bobby Thomas he's not been great. I think Burton Albion. I'm just thinking of bad defending here.
Oh, thanks.
Bristol Rovers have not defended well this season, and I think Joey Barton wants to address that.
Yeah.
And so maybe Bobby Thomas. He was saying Bobby Thomas wouldn't have really played many minutes because that's probably just his cover story for the fact that he's been nabbed back and sent to a club just above them in the table. But
Alfie Kilgore sold to Mansfield as well. I think it was 17 years he'd been with Bristol Rovers.
Wow.
He'd just been a bit injury prone
with the gas.
He'd just been a bit injury prone in recent seasons and hadn't been able to get into any sort of rhythm. But they're going to need reinforcements in defence, Bristol Rovers, as quickly as they can.
You think it's quite an attractive place to go to at the moment, though. I mean, they're playing pretty good football. They're very much in the promotion chase and really look to be building something quite exciting.
Yeah, I'd agree. Yeah, I think especially if you're a young defender, they've developed some good young defensive players in the last year or two. So
it's a real chance to push your career on.
Yeah, absolutely. Not a great day at the office for them on Saturday, though, to be honest.
No, but a pivotal 3 points to Accrington Stanley at the Crown Ground. Charlton Athletic 2, Barnsley 0. The 2 goals, one of them from Tyrese Campbell, his first league goal with a near-post finish. Jezran Raksaki, the Crystal Palace loaner, grabbing the second for Charlton on the rebound. It's 3 league wins in a row for the Addicts. They've come against Portsmouth, Lincoln City and now Barnsley as well. They had a trip to Old Trafford as well in midweek for the League Cup. didn't disgrace themselves by any means in that defeat to Manchester United either. I felt that Ashley Maynard-Brewer, their Australian goalkeeper, he really caught the eye again in that performance. He's really established himself as Charlton's starting goalkeeper now, especially whilst Jojo Walcott's been absent. And it's so much so that it's actually made Craig McGillivray, who's been back up, make the move from Charlton Athletics bench to Burton Albion's bench. It was an odd decision why Dino didn't start him yesterday, Jordan Mesa, but we'll gloss over that for now. New faces at the Valley. Todd Kane, he's a versatile fullback coming on loan from Queen's Park Rangers, comes straight into the back Thor yesterday. I think this 4-3-3 is a really good fit, actually, to Dean Holden's side at the moment. I think George Dobson at the base of midfield is a really key part of that. We're also seeing Scott Fraser return to the kind of form and performances that made him one of the standout League One midfielders at both Milton Keynes Dons and Burton Albion previously. It really helps Charlton as well, having a natural striker starting up top again in Miles Leaburn, who is still so young, but such a big talent. Got to mention as well the return of Macaulay Bonne, brought on from off the bench yesterday. Averaged a goal every 3 games in the Championship when with Charlton back in 2019-20. Last year, on loan at Ipswich Town, he had an explosive first 2 months with the Tractor Boys. Could be good things to him at the Valley for sure. Barnsley might still be in the playoffs and have games in hand on those directly above them, but I think they may find themselves nervously looking over the shoulder at the chasing pack. I mean, James, injuries aren't helping them at the minute. It's not ideal when you have to start Josh Benson at right wing back in this game.
No, Edwards, obviously, they lost him after losing. I mean, they've lost a few players this season, actually, trying to remember them all off the top of my head. But it's not ideal. And I think they'll address it in the next few weeks. I've got a feeling that they're going to sort of, I mean, Bobby Thomas, will see where they envisage him playing. But I think they'll be a little bit more urgent in some of their recruitment, given the fact that they've lost a few players now for the entire season, it appears. So, yeah, Barnsley, yeah, they're a good side.
Do we have to say they're the one out of the playoff teams to catch at the minute?
Of course, yeah, absolutely. I think they are. I mean, if you look at Barnsley, if we're honest, are they, the top 4 are a step above, I think, everyone else. And I do think the top 3 are a step above Derby. So, you're looking at Bolton and Derby being within their own right better teams than the likes of Barnsley. I mean, Wickham always strike me as being a side you should never write off. Mm-hmm. They are scary to play against. They're a difficult side. And, they weren't that bad, I think, against Sheffield Wednesday yesterday, which we'll come to. I just look at the chasing pack and I'm not really convinced by many of the others. That's the only thing. So Barnsley could be given a sort of a grace of playoff place by the fact that the others are not yet showing that much consistency. If you look at all those sides there's none that I sit there and go, oh, watch them. They're sort of upcoming. In fact, there are some who you think should be that are trending in the wrong direction. So we'll have to wait and see how the sort of table pans out and which teams do good business to try and bolster their squads.
Yeah, Wickham will run them close. I believe in Bristol Rovers whilst Aaron Collins is there that they could have a shout at it because they are that good.
I think Harry's mention of Exeter, which I sort of cussed him down on a little bit. I mean, you never know. They've looked fairly good of late. So, if they can keep their attacking talents going and maybe give themselves a bit more depth, because they do lack, I think, some depth, especially in defence. They're not a bad team. The
couple
way
of
they've
interesting
been playing
midfield departures as well, dropping down to the 4th tier, and we'll get onto those in the League 2 section as well. But James, why don't you tell us about Fleetwood Town 1, Oxford United 2?
Yeah, delighted to for a change. Oxford going to Fleetwood and winning. This is. I mean, it's back-to-back wins at Fleetwood, I should say. But we haven't had a great record against this team in general at all over the years. And in perfect honesty, Fleetwood should have been out of sight at half time. Simon Eastwood coming back, and I haven't got anything against Ed McGinty, but Simon Eastwood is a cut above him at the moment. He is a top goalkeeper, and he had to make a couple of really smart saves in that first half. Omacheri, who I think will get a much bigger role in this Fleetwood team now that they let Callum Morton go to Salford for free as well. No fee. I thought that was a very strange move. All I can imagine is that
it's a bit of a shame for his career, though, isn't it? Because you think back to when he was on loan at Northampton from West Brom. He looked like the world of his feet. He was so explosive impact there, and it's stagnated a bit for him with his career.
Indeed, it has. Yeah, it has. And but I actually thought he looked quite good for Fleetwood this season. So, a move to Salford is always a sign. I mean, I don't want to be unfair to Salford, but they tend to go for players that, they used to go for players, as you and I well know, that were on the wrong end of their career. They were sort of aging guys who perhaps were on a last swan song. I'm not sure that can be said for Callum Morton. I think he reminds me more of perhaps a progressive signing, a bit like Conor McAleny has been for them. But I was just surprised to see him go for free. I think he'd been decent for Fleetwood this season, but it might be about freeing up wages. It might be about giving some of the players that they've got in that team more chances to play. They've got Musgrave in there, they've got Mendes Gomez in there, and obviously they've got youngsters like Hayes and who I think has been quite good actually. Jed Gardner's been a decent player for them this season as well, and Paddy Lane sort of hardly made an appearance. When you remember how good he was last season, they got Dan Batty, so they've got options, and they should have put Oxford to the sword. They had several options in that first half, or chances I should say, in that first half to score. Simon Eastwood kept us in it, and actually it wasn't, the cliche of a game of two halves. This wasn't really a game of two halves. This was a game of Oxford without Carl Joseph and Oxford with Carl Joseph, because when he came on, the dynamic changed. He scored within was it 40 seconds of coming on, got the ball on that right-hand side.
Just advanced, didn't he?
He just, it was poor defending, if I'm honest. The Oxford commentators were like, oh, what a wonderful solo goal. But I thought, I think Scott Brown will have something to say about that with his defence. It was rather easy, the way he sort of went through people rather than actually round them. But he had to be persistent to do that, and he's got good skill level, and his energy brought Oxford back into the game in a major way. And he scored, scored a really good goal. And then, for us to score the winner, and quite ironic it being Kieran Brown, given the week he's had post Arsenal, it was nice for him to get that winner.
What was it he did? Because I've heard, I'm not quite sure.
Well, okay, so this is a FA investigation for spot fixing, because there was strange gambling patterns on the fact that everyone was betting on him to get a yellow card against Arsenal. And so they want to investigate his phone. They've taken all his electronics off him to see if he had anything to do with this. Now, I think there's a debate going on as to whether there was anything untoward happening, or the bookmakers just overpriced the fact that a centre-back who is now playing left-back was facing Saka, and they'd overpriced the market. I think it was 8-1 or something they gave for him to get a yellow card. So everyone saw that as I'll have a piece of that. And obviously, the more people that see that and put money on it, it sort of has an impact on the odds of the betting market. So there's an investigation. I would like to think that it is simply just the bookmakers made a mistake in the price, and because they don't really understand League One football. And you should never put a League One left back at a high price to get a booking against Arsenal. Frankly, in an FA Cup game, it's a bit stupid on their part. But some bookmakers are not paying out because they think there has been foul play, and obviously, if there has been, it's a disgrace. And but I think let's give him the benefit of the doubt until there is anything substantial talked about here, because I'm hoping that it's just a case of poor pricing. But yeah, really unfortunate for him, because it's put him under the spotlight. And if he is completely innocent of any wrongdoing here, then it's very unfair on him. And it was nice to see him get the winning goal and give Oxford 3 points, which Carl Joseph thoroughly deserved.
You're very glad to have him back, aren't you?
Oh, I love him. I think he's a great player, and he just gives us energy, which we have lacked at times this season. I mean, we're an average side in a difficult division, so
staying
I don't
on loan,
expect
not going to go anywhere.
I hope so. I think he'll stay with us. I mean, we've looked after him, and he's back in the squad. It'd be quite surprising to see the club take him away from us when we're developing him into a very good player. So
Swansea have already broken some teams' hearts by taking loanies off them in League One anyway. So talking to them, actually, let's move on to that team, and let's focus on what actually looked the game of the day on paper at the start of it. We've left it towards the end because it's not quite the high scoring game compared to others, but it was a significant result alongside another one that we'll get onto just after. James, talk to us about Ipswich Town 1, Plymouth Argyle 1.
Yeah, well, I said in the daily pod that my thoughts on this would be, if Argyle can go here and not lose, then it's a job done, because they're going to a team that is obviously chasing them. They're going to a team that's going to have 29,000 fans in there, and a team that's really quite a good side who had rested all their players in the previous match. I think it was the Rotherham FA Cup game. They made several changes, and they brought them all back. All the big guns came back for this one. You had Wes Burns come in, Morsey come back into it, Wolfenden back into the defence along with Donassian, Walton coming back, I think, in goal, because they played Hadley for that FA Cup game. And they more than matched them. It was a really good game of football. Two good teams playing sort of an attacking style of play. Marcus Harness hit the bar in this one. You had, I don't know how Hardy missed that opportunity that was laid on a platter for him by Tyler Innes, wasn't it? It was came across the face of goal, and he managed to hit the bar, which is actually a lot harder to do than hit the back of the net in that situation. But Niall Innes, sorry, not Tyler Innes. Tyler Innes is a hockey player. Oh dear. This is me down to a T. This first names are not my forte, I do warn you. But yeah, no, Niall Innes laid it on a plate for him, and he managed to hit the bar, and I couldn't quite believe that. But then Wes Burns smashed Ipswich into the lead with a really good finish from that tight angle, and part of me thought that might be enough for them. You never should write off Argyle. They've got a very good team. I think their recruitment has given them real depth now. And I think a lot was made of the fact that Morgan Whittaker was recalled, but I think some of the hysteria about his recall sort of going to be the downfall of Argyle's season was well over-egged when you look at the kind of quality that they have got in the side. And then you go and look at the quality of players that they've managed to sign. I mean, Jay Mattek coming into a midfield that already had Randall. It already had Azaz, who's come back from injury. And obviously they've had Butcher and Houghton who can play in there as well. So it was never going to be that big a deal, losing Whittaker, because they've just done a good job of recruiting. And it had to be a Norwich loanee, didn't it, who scored the equaliser.
I hadn't even registered that till now. You're absolutely right.
Yeah, Norwich loanee, Ballymumba cutting inside and smashing
goal.
It into the...
So good.
It was a great goal.
It
was a great goal. And it's a great result for Argyle. They're now 7 unbeaten, and they're unbeaten away from home since August, when they had that kind of very strange 5-1 defeat at the Valley against Cheltenham. So they're doing really well.
It is odd. It did stick out a bit like a thought on that 5-1, but a great result at Portman Road to them. And we'll go back into Ipswich in a moment, but Chris, I want to quickly mention the other game that's worth mentioning up at the top. Wycombe Wanderers 0, Sheffield Wednesday 1.
Yeah, well, I think my big takeaway from this game, as James said, you can't write Wycombe off this season in terms of this promotion race, and I thought they gave Sheffield Wednesday a really good run for their money despite losing. Just a quick word on Sheffield Wednesday, now 3 points off the top and 18 games unbeaten in all competitions. And yet, really the decisive factor in this game was an absolute beauty from Will Vaux. Ball found him about 35 yards out from goal, and just I think James called it a thunder bastard before, something like that. That is a fair description of it. It was a real beauty. End-to-end stuff. I think it was a fairly entertaining game despite the sort of modest scoreline. But yeah, Sheffield Wednesday came away with all 3 points.
They've done well there as well, because Mark McGuinness was recalled by Cardiff, and he's been a really good defender for them. Obviously, they've got Ben Hennigan out, they've got Michael Hickway out, and they've got no Barry Bannon in that team at the minute. And yet they're still finding a way to win.
I feel like Windass has inherited Bannon's spirit or something, because Windass, particularly in the last week or so, has looked really crucial for them.
Yeah, I agree. Akinfenwa came back in after he's suffered a pretty bad injury, didn't he? And he's only really just getting back, but a timely return for him, because obviously McGuinness being recalled has left them a bit short. And they'll probably, and I don't know sort of the time frames for Hickway and Hennigan. I just know they were listed as long term. So, and Iafora, as much as he's been a good player in the past, his injury problems have really not helped him in his career at Sheffield Wednesday, and he's kind of been on the decline for a while. So I do think they need to raid the transfer market to get some centre-back covering as quickly as they can. But Dawson's been great in goal.
Yes.
So there you go. Yeah, been really good.
Good decision to switch him out to Stockdale, certainly. We've got to talk this top three, because it's the most interesting part of League One, probably up at the top. The standard these three are taking. Plymouth Argyle still retain a place at the top. They're always going to. But that draw through Ipswich, that late equaliser, means the gap to Sheffield Wednesday is now grown even more. It feels like it's getting a little bit restless in the Ipswich fan base, and I'm not entirely sure there's a need to, because yes, you don't want to miss out on automatic promotion, but you're not out of it by finishing third. And this is.
Well, I also think the race isn't over by a long shot yet as well. I don't think it's over yet for the automatics. I think Ipswich, there'll be so many twists and turns in this automatic promotion race before now and the end of the season that a little blip on this. On their radar at the minute with three straight draws they've had now?
But do you understand this little bit of frustration they have that they're not able to hold on to leads when they get them?
Oh, absolutely. Yeah. I mean, you can see why they're frustrated, but I just think at some point they'll hit their stride again. And if Argyle and Wednesday can keep their form up like they have, then you just tip your hat to them. But I don't know. Football is very rarely that simple.
If you look at the projections going around, there's a theory that we could have 3 teams end up on 90 points, which means one of them will miss out on automatics, and that's brutal.
Absolutely brutal,
really
yeah.
Brutal, but it's the way League One is. 2 automatic spots. You're by no means out of it. Finishing third, you enter into the playoffs, whoever that might be, and maybe go from there. But a bit of a frustrating time for Ipswich, and now let's hope they can pick up further down the line. I'll run through 2 more games to wrap up League One. Exeter City 1, Forest Green Rovers 1. Forest Green's opener coming from Robson, putting a cross in that was headed home by Jordan Garrick. That is a combination that I think Lincoln City fans wish they could have seen more of. The 2 of them were actually at Lincoln City in the first half of the season and are now at FGR instead. Exeter's equaliser from Giovanni Brown fired in. That's his 10th goal this season. There's a passage of play with it score at 1-1 as well at the Forest Green goal, which is just utter carnage. And somehow the ball doesn't end up in the back of the net. It's quite a fun watch, I've got to say. It's enjoyable, but it ends level there. I think a decent point actually for the bottom club, Forest Green Rovers away. The Exeter side that have been going pretty strong so far. And the other game to very quickly mention, Milton Keynes Dons 0, Lincoln City 0 at Stadium MK. We'll finish the League One table to run through this section. Plymouth Argyle still lead the way, 58 points from 27 games. Sheffield Wednesday strengthened their position in second. They got 55 from 26. Ipswich Town, the challengers, 51 points from 26. Derby County are fourth. They got 44 from 25. Bolton Wanderers, after their great win over Portsmouth, 44 from 26. Barnsley looking a bit over the shoulder at the moment, slightly out of form, 40 points from 24. The closest to the chasing pack is Wickham on 38 from 26. Bristol Rovers up 37 from 27. Peterborough, who play Port Vale tomorrow night, they've got 35 from 24. Exeter have 35 from 26. And Port Vale have 35 from 24. Down the bottom of the pile, still Forest Green Rovers. They've got 21 points from 26. Burton Albion, only a matter of time before they probably go below them at the rate they're under the minute, to be honest. They've got 22 from 26. Milton Keynes Dons are in the bottom four still, 22 from 25. Cambridge United didn't play yesterday. The game with Morecambe, as we said, was postponed before kick-off. 24 points in 25 games. They've fallen into there. Morecambe, who didn't play as well, 24 from 25. Accrington with their precious win over Bristol Rovers, 25 from 24. And then a bit of a gap up to Cheltenham Town in 18th, so 28 from 25. Let's drop down and take a look at the world's best 4th tier.
League 2.
League 2, again, like with League 1, we're going to kick this off with the biggest win of the weekend. That was Swindon Town 5, Grimsby Town 0. The build-up to this game at the county ground was centred around one man, Charlie Austin. It was a long time ago now, but Swindon was where Charlie Austin actually got his big break in the EFL. He'd been spotted playing for Paul Town by, I believe it was then Chief Scout Ken Ryder, and he had 18 months at the county ground following it, which came with 37 goals in all competitions for the Robins in that time. And he makes the move to Burnley in the winter of 2011, and the rest is history, really. This is a guy who has scored 125 goals at Premier League and Championship level. Only last season he was in the second tier with Queen's Park Rangers. Most recently he's been in the A-League in Australia with Brisbane Roar. This move back to Swindon Town, we've known it's been coming for a while. It's been teased for ages, and it finally got confirmed at the end of December. This was the first game he's eligible to play in. Charlie Austin, lads, he's only 33. I'm really excited about this signing. It gives me the same kind of feelings that I have when I see Jolly Williams in the Swindon team, actually. He's still a big cut above 4th tier level for me. His homecoming yesterday in front of a bumper crowd, it went perfectly. Austin starts the game up top, 25 minutes in, he scores with a classic Charlie Austin goal. Cross on the right by Romeo Hutton, guided in by Austin's head, and past Matt Crocombe. Grimsby went down to 10 men when Danny Amos got a straight red card, and the Robins just ran riot in the second half. Marcel Lavinia, Johnny Williams, Ronan Darcy, Saidu Khan all scoring to complete that 5-0 victory. Another incident in this game as well to probably mention is where referee Sam Perkis got cleaned out by a Kieran Brennan clearance, had to be stretchered off, taken to hospital where he was treated for concussion, and I'm pleased to hear that he was released soon after. I hope he recovers well. Got to mention as well, there was an interim management team in the dugout for Swindon. The pair of first-team coach Gavin Gunning and goalkeeping coach Steve Mildenhall took charge of this game because Scott Lindsay and his assistant Jamie Day had made the move to Crawley Town Football Club. This is our chance to mention the Red Devils this week. Their game with Doncaster, as you mentioned, was actually postponed due to waterlogged pitch. A move that, again, had been known about for quite a while and feeling inevitable. I can't honestly imagine Swindon Towns are actually too down about seeing him go to Crawley, though.
No, and I can't imagine that Crawley fans are delighted to have a manager of who's meant to be the experienced candidate in quotation marks, who's only managed 30 games. I
suppose he's more experienced than the others.
Well, he's older, so yeah. No, but I mean, you're talking. Yeah, I mean, it's not what it was promised, is it? Really? I mean, I don't know. I hope he does well.
I hope so as well.
I don't want anyone to do badly, but I just think it's, again, not particularly gone down that well with Crawley supporters who, might have wanted someone to come in and really sort of give this squad they've got and this window they've got a sort of the best opportunity they can. Because the way they're being run, I think, Chris, you weren't here when I mentioned this, but it reminds me slightly of Lemsgum coming into Oldham, who had this different idea about how he wanted to run a club. I don't think Lemsgum ever had any malicious intent of harming the club. He was just incompetent. And I think this is very similar to what we're seeing with the Wagner United group at Crawley.
They're a walking, talking advertisement for the need of the fan-led review report to actually be implemented and for an independent regulator to be brought in, because you're right, at least at the start with the Lemsgums there wasn't a malicious intent, and I don't think there is with these guys, but it's very clear that they don't fully understand what is needed to run a League Two football club successfully. And
they've just let Glenn Morris go to Gillingham on a permanent, and Tom Nichols go.
It's just even if you want to get rid of him, you don't send him off to a relegation rival. It's just such poorly thought out decisions, and ultimately it's the fans of Crawley that get hurt by it. It's really sad to see again that once again we're in the position of talking about football club owners rather than football clubs being good or crap at football.
The Crawley Town talk will continue for a while yet. I mean, I think of the situation of players like George Drankham, Tony Craig, Jake Essenthaler. I can't say 100% certainty whether they're going to be there in this window or not. We'll just have to wait and see with that, and we'll wait for Scott Lindsay's first game as Crawley manager as well. But his old club, Swindon, brilliant day. Charlie Austin's homecoming, could not ask for a better win. 5-0 victory over 10-man Grimsby Town. James, let's move to the bottom of the table and talk about the bottom two playing each other. Gillingham 2, Hartlepool United 0.
Yeah, what a refreshing game this must have been for Gillingham fans, because obviously they've had a really tough time of scoring. This is the first time they've scored 2 goals in a league game at the Priestfield since January. And that was in a 7-2 defeat to Oxford.
Was it actually in that game? I didn't know that.
Yeah, that's the last time. And it's the first time they've scored 2 goals in any league game since April, when they drew 2-2 away at Cheltenham. So, it's finally, I mean, they finally had on the pitch a player up front in Ollie Hawkins who could be that focal point, and they had a player in Tom Nichols who complements him perfectly with his intelligent movement off the ball and his footballing brain, which is a step above a lot of the players at this level, which has made him such a successful signing, and why Crawley fans are so disappointed to see him go. But Gillingham played a complete game of football here. They didn't really get troubled that much by Hartlepool. I know Hartlepool did hit the post, and there was that sort of effort in the first half which hit the side netting, but they weren't at any point they didn't feel like they were being overrun. I don't think there was any spell in the game where Hartlepool really could say they were on top and looked like they were about to score. I think Gillingham controlled the match really well. They had all their new signings in Timmy Dieng in the team. They had Tom Nichols, Ollie Hawkins. They made the announcement of George Lapsley 10 minutes before kickoff as well. He's been signed on an undisclosed fee from Mansfield. So things are really looking good. I think Will Wright and Irma played a decent game at centre-back. Glenn Morris was solid in goal. And it's finally got them a very important 3 points. And obviously one swallow does not a summer make. So they're still very much in the mire. But the club feels completely different than it did a few weeks ago. And they're definitely heading in the right direction, which is more than you can say for Hartlepool, who their squad just feels just not good enough, really. Only 4 wins all season. They didn't have enough fight. They didn't have enough. They just didn't look good enough in this game at all. And Keith Curl will be fuming about the nature of that first goal, which is a nod to Tom Nichols' intelligence, the way he ran in that near post to flick home, an intelligent finish from him. But for a Keith Curl side to concede a goal like that from a set piece, he'll be absolutely fuming. But yeah, great for Gillingham and a great 3 points, and finally some smiles back on the faces of the vast majority of the 6,000 fans that were in the Priestfield.
Yes, 22% of their goals scored this season were scored yesterday.
It's ridiculous.
We're not going to be able to make fun of this for much longer, so let's make the most of it while we can, because they will start getting good. I want to quickly mention this from Tom Nichols' Instagram, his story he put after the game. Goal, assist, and a 2-0 win on my debut. Good job there's no height restrictions in this side.
Yeah. Little dig at one of the reasons that he got rid of from Crawley, wasn't it? In that thing, we've got two players who are too small. Yeah, right. Okay. Goodness me, this isn't ice hockey, mate.
Well, Crawley's loss is going to be Gillingham's game for sure. Let's talk about some more teams down the bottom of the table, James. Rochdale 1, Colchester United 2.
Yeah, this is a massively disappointing result for Rochdale, and just a continuation of the good form we've seen Colchester in since the last few games. They've got 3 straight wins in the league for the first time since 2018. I was quite surprised it's been that long, because you think they have had some decent spells in previous seasons. It's only the last couple they've struggled, and yet you have to go back to 2018 to find the last time they won 3 straight league games. So crazy. Junior Chimandu again playing very, very well, scoring a rocket thanks to great hold-up play from John Akinde. They're utilising the transfer market really well. Matt J obviously making his debut off the bench.
What a signing that is! I'm sorry.
Crazy,
think about what he's done at Exeter, I was convinced he was going to go ahead of Exeter, not back down to League 2. He's one of the best attacking midfielders in the league for me, James.
I think it's an unbelievable signing, not just because he is the player he is, but he is, in terms of his experience. I mean, he's a promotion winner and a captain. And obviously Connor Hall coming in, who's a promotion winner and a good leader. Those are very, very good signings for a team that desperately needed some depth. And when you looked at their bench, you could finally see that they've got some depth off there. And I think they're using John Akinde quite intelligently, a bit like Gareth Ainsworth used Akinfenwa, Matt Bloomfield using Akinde in that similar vein. And he was a real thorn in Rochdale's defence. I felt very, very sorry for Eastwood in goal. His debut his debut since signing. I mean, they chucked him straight in, wasn't it? It's Jake Eastwood, I think. He was on loan at Scunthorpe previously, and just that shot from Cole Scouse late on, just plugged in the earth and rolled straight under his hands into the net. And for a team like Rochdale, who had been slightly better form, you could say, they hadn't lost in the previous 3 before this, and they got that very good win at the Valley Parade. Was it midweek they got that one? I think it was, yeah. To lose this one, it is sickening, and Bentley is fuming. And the thing I look at for Rochdale, which worries me, and indeed for Hartlepool in some sense, is the fact that they're losing ground in the transfer market to the teams down there. The business done by Colchester has been brilliant, as it has so far for Gillingham as well. Not sure what Crawley will do. I have a feeling they'll try and pull a few signings out of the bag to placate the sort of the wrath of the fans that they're getting at the minute. They do indeed. Harrogate are always a small team who are going to be fighting, but they've been a little better of late. So I do worry for Rochdale big time, and I think Jim Bentley's frustration at the end of that game was there for all to see.
Yep, but great to Colchester, and I'm glad you mentioned Akinde, because we know what he's about. He's such a unit, and I think having laid off the ball for both Chamadeo to get his 3rd goal in 5 games, I think as well. He's been on fire recently, the right wing back, and then the goal to Scouse, which, Eastwood error. I mean, they all count, so you take it, don't you? It's your Colchester United perspective, and I get they kind of wish it was earlier in the season, because they look like they're going to get much, much further away from the bottom 2 now, and a bit earlier on they might be eyeing up those top spots with the rest of the pack, but
I just hope that they can get some positivity back in this club and move in the right direction. They've for the first time in a while, they've done a really good bit of business, and Colchester desperately need that. It's not like they haven't just looked at Ipswich release list and gone, oh, we'll have him and him. They've actually gone and signed players with good promotion credentials from this division in the past. So it's good business for them.
A team with Noah Chilvers and Matt Jay's attacking midfield options, quite frankly, is not fair as far as I'm concerned. James, should we move back up to the top and talk about your favourite person, Paul Simpson? Carlisle United 2, Newport County 0.
Yeah, Carlisle. I mean, it wasn't a great game. I'll be very frank about that to start with. Difficult conditions, swirly win, and Paul Simpson was very, very honest in his post-match about this one. They were fortunate to be 1-0 up at half-time. The game had been, bitty. I think Newport had caused Carlisle some problems, and had given them a really good game, to be honest. But then I don't know what Dimitri was doing. He kind of headed the ball backwards, misjudged the header, and Christian Dennis, with wonderful instincts is the reason why he's doing so well and scoring so many goals this season, just to nip in, lovely touch and finish to put Carlisle 1-0 up at the break. And then another really poor defensive header, allowing Carlisle to win possession in the Newport half and then set up John Kiami Gordon, a player who I'll be honest, I hadn't heard of before he signed for Carlisle. And yet he looks a tidy player. Good debut goal for him. And another 3 points for Carlisle in what is it's going to be an interesting chase as they try and chase down Northampton. I know they already feel that game in hand will be very, very important for them. But they didn't play well yesterday. Let's not pretend it was wonderful, but it was difficult conditions against a Newport side who I thought played well in that first 45 and then kind of, as Graham Coughlin said, pressed the self-destruct button a bit in the second half with the goals they conceded, or in stoppage time in the first half for that first goal. And all Carlisle can do is just keep finding ways to grind out victories, and they're doing that really, really well. And I think, they've had an injury crisis, but the signing of Alfie McCalmont, I think, Chris, you'll agree, that's adding to a midfield that's already really quite good, and he made a cameo from the bench. He's going to be a good player, I think.
Yeah, he really, really impressed me at Oldham. I think that's a fantastic signing for them. I've just had a look at this John Kimani. His full name is fantastic.
Go on.
It's John Kimani Linton Michael Gordon.
Brilliant.
Superb.
That is a strong name.
Superb.
That's a great one for the commercial department as well to get on the back of the shirts. I mean, it's like £1.25 letter. So.
£1 letter. I love that for sure. We have Fortress, Brunton Park. This is becoming Carlisle in really good form, even if they're not playing at the best yesterday. Quick mention as well to Joel Senior, finally back into the matchday squads after making a return from injury. 2 full 90s under his belt now at right wing back, and Carlisle currently the front runners to compete for those top 3 places. They'll have benefited yesterday actually from the scoreline at Edgeley Park. Stockport County 2, Northampton Town 0. I feel like the bulk of our League 2 discussion for the rest of this season is going to be focused around this just ridiculous top 7 battle that we've got. As it stands right now, we've got a 7-point gap between 4th place Carlisle United and 15th place Tranmere Rovers. Our challenge from now on, boys, is to try and identify the teams in this pack that we think look like genuine top 7 contenders. And I think Stockport County absolutely need to be put in that bracket. Dave Chandler's found the systems and the personnel that really fit the players he's got. Yesterday, the Hatters picked up what was actually a fairly comfortable victory at home to 3rd place Northampton Town. They did opt for a change of formation. Ex-cobbler Fraser Horsfall not able to play against his old side, so we got to see new signing Neil Byrne make his debut after joining with Tranmere Rovers. He is partnered by Ryan Johnson at centre-back, with Akil Wright moved to right-back, and Ryan Rydell playing at left-back. Rydell's a player I really like, by the way. He's 21 years old. He's been at Stockport a few years now after joining from Fleetwood Town. He takes up really great positions out wide on the left, where he can be picked up in dangerous positions by the passes out to him. He likes a shot from range every now and then as well. So I'm kind of waiting for us to see a highlight of him scoring one from distance that ends up making one the goal of the month shortlist as well. He does like hitting them from there, and it can cause problems. Stockport's 2 goals yesterday. The first, a really slick move, finished off by Anthony Sarcevic. The freedom that Challoner gives him, Will Collar and Miles Hippolyte to push forwards, it can only come really because of that discipline that Ryan Crosdale has the base of midfield, by the way. Stockport have got this really good blend of both battle and individual quality, and their January business already has been really impressive. We've mentioned Neil Byrne, who's come to Tranmere. They brought in Isaac Oluwathe permanent from Millwall. I love the guy. I think he was brilliant at Sutton United for 2 seasons. He'll be really good for them as well. Jack Stretton, mentioned in Carlisle, moved permanently from Derby County. He was catching the eye for Carlisle to pull her side as well, and they've got him permanently now. And just before the weekend, right back Carl Noyle making the move for Doncaster Rovers. Undoubtedly one of the best in his position in the league. Showed at Cambridge. Been playing right centre-back for Doncaster recently on the right side of back 3, so an option to cover 2 positions the day challenge if he wants him to do that. One final man I have to mention to Stockport, Ben Hinchcliffe. 35-year-old goalkeeper, stepped up in the absence of Vit Yaros and became the established Stockport number 1 again. Some of the saves he made yesterday were first class. There was a couple in particular to deny Sam Hoskins, who is League 2's current top scorer at the moment. He looks unbeatable yesterday, and this is a guy who has been playing for the Hatters since their days in the National League North. He's the shining example of how much growth this club has had in a short space of time, and they're not done with that growth yet either. Stockport need to be watched in the second half of the season. They're just getting better and better and better. It's kind of a run of the odd defeat in a run of victories, which is form that leaves you in a very good position at the end of the season.
I mean, I'm glad to see them back. I watched them in their glory days. I'm a bit older than you boys, and
Kevin Francis.
Yeah, they had Kevin Francis and obviously, they had Carlo Nash in goal, who went on to play several games in the Premier League. I mean, they had a great team, if I remember rightly. They nicked Smudger, Dave Smith from Oxford, who he was a good little midfielder. I was annoyed that they took him, but Stockport were an established team in the Championship for a long time. So great to see them.
You know my soft spot for them with my dad growing up watching them, and it is great to see them on the way back up. I mean, they really should be. At the very least, a good League Two, but probably a third division side looking upwards. And it's really nice to see the infrastructure around them being put in place by the owners as well. I mean, I've seen some pictures of the food at their new. They have these sort of stalls out the back of the Cheadle end.
At the back of Cheadle end, yeah.
It looks fantastic.
It is good. It's a real buzz around.
Unlike the food at the Kassam Stadium, Chris?
I did love that got on BBC News.
That burger.
I forgot about that. Right, we'll stay in the northwest. Chris, talk to us about Salford City 2, Sutton United 0.
Yeah, I mean, I thought I'd start off with talking about the state of the pitch. I mean, Sutton coming up from Gander Green Lane, there wasn't much green about this. I mean, I've had a go at a terrible joke with calling it Buzzard Brown Lane.
This is Salford's ground we're on about, though, not Sutton's.
Yeah, I know, but,
he's doing his best to be funny.
I'm doing my best, okay? It's been a long day. But yeah, it was a cracking performance from Conor McAleny with a brace on the day. Got things going in the 9th minute. It was a very Conor McAleny finish, I thought. Capitalising on some slightly dodgy defending.
Oh, the first touch is amazing.
Yeah, lovely. Really, really good first touch, and probably a bit weak in the defence, and then just thumped it across the goalkeeper, and it was tough for him to save, and then again doubled the lead just before half time, where it was a fantastic flap from Sutton's goalkeeper. Actually, you don't see flaps like that very often these days from Lewis Ward. Great. And yeah, pretty simple finish for McAleny. Sutton were unbeaten in 4 going into it, but they looked really poor on this one actually, and missed a penalty in the 70th minute from Rob Milsom, who, I mean, it was a pretty weak attempt. So yeah, I think one to forget for Sutton, but a pretty confident win for Salford.
Pretty surprised they let Tom King go to Northampton, but I suppose if you've got Alex Cairns, that's fine.
And
really.
Northampton haven't got Lee Burge available at the moment, so he started yesterday in that defeat to Stockport as well, and he's there permanently now. 5-3 for Conor McAleny though, Chris. Flying.
I mean, it's what he does, isn't it?
Good play. We had him on loan from Everton back in the day, Oxford, and
he did start at Everton. That's where I first heard about him, from Everton. I can't believe how long it's been since he was there.
He was one of the really strange signings we had at Oldham, where he was actually a really good player.
But like Keeler Dunn.
That's right.
Yeah, but Keeler Dunn kind of made a bit more
sense. That form, honestly. Let's stop talking Burton. Chris, we'll have another one. Harrogate Town 1, Stevenage 1.
Yeah, keeping me on my toes here, aren't you? Yeah, I think slightly disappointing for Stevenage yesterday. I mean, they're still 10 games unbeaten, and coming off the real high of that fantastic cup win last weekend, where they came from 1 behind to beat Aston Villa 2-1. That was really quite exciting. They were probably the better side for much of the game, but didn't manage to take the lead until the second half when Carl Pegiani... I mean, when I saw that Pegiani had scored, I assumed it'd be a thumping header, but it was actually a pretty sort of classy finish. A bit of a scramble around in the penalty area, and then he sort of hit it on the half volley, twisting at the same time, and it was a really sort of nice finish. But they only held that lead for 17 minutes. When a little bit of a brilliant cross from Alex Pattinson met Luke Armstrong and salvaged a point from Harrogate. I mean, I thought Stevenage generally pressed pretty well, but they were sloppy at times. They gave possession away a little bit cheaply, and actually nearly lost the game late on, where Pegiani again was very much earning his praise yesterday, cleared it off the line. So I think 2 points dropped for Stevenage, but not too disheartening for them.
still 10 points between them and Carlisle, isn't it?
That's the target for now, yeah. And Piergiani,
yeah.
the standout in that back line. I mean, the whole back three, him, Van Kooten and Dan Sweeney have been so good, but I feel like we're having another conversation about an ex-Oldham player, Chris. I mean, Piergiani's just been sensational for them.
Yeah, he's a really solid defender, especially at this level. And, he was frustrating to some at times at Oldham, but it's very clear that he's a very, very strong, very, very capable centre-half.
Just don't ask him to do too much with the ball at his feet. Just plays with strength, and that's what Steve Evans has done since he signed him.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
And please, Luke Armstrong's refined form for Harrogate as well, because he's a key player for them in forward areas too. Another 1-1 draw. Tranmere Rovers 1, Walsall 1. Goalless first half. Good number of chances falling Tranmere's way, but Walsall got the opener with what was actually their only shot on goal all game long. Route 1, from the back, a flick on, Danny Johnson lifting the ball over Mateus Hevelt, who'd come off his line. Just a few minutes later, Manny Mont sent off the Walsall for a second yellow card, bringing down Kane Hemmings, who was the last man. It was from that resulting free kick that Tranmere would get their equaliser through Josh Hawkes. I want to talk January windows with these two, because they could be what determines whether we place these two in the genuine contender brackets. Tranmere at the moment, they've lost quite a lot. Dino Semedo has been recalled. He's gone up to Morecambe in League One. Neil Burns been sold to Stockport County. Goalkeeper Ross Doohan's moved up a level to Forest Green Rovers. I'm still not quite sure how I feel about that, Forest Green. I feel like Forest Green, maybe another topic, are kind of recruiting in January with the idea that if we don't make it, we're ready to go again in League Two. That's the way I'm feeling with it at the minute, but we'll talk about that later down the line. Striker Elliot Nevitt's gone to Crewe as well, which was a shame because he felt like a bit of a cult hero at Tranmere. For the work ethic in particular that he had, but Crewe need a striker at the moment, so they'll be pleased to have him. Tranmere is only signing so far Brad Walker from Port Vale, a good defensive midfielder, can also play at centre-back. Not quite sure where he stands in the pecking order at the moment, though. It was a pretty much unchanged 11 for Tranmere yesterday, apart from Mateus Hevelt, the Polish goalkeeper, who's definitely now the number one, now that Doohan's gone as well. Walsall, however, are involved in one of the most interesting transfer sagas of what's going to be this entire window. Danny Johnson's loan from Mansfield Town ends today on the 15th of January. His goal yesterday was the 15th he scored from 30 games in all competitions. Is that the last one he will score for Walsall this season? Michael Flynn has got Walsall on a very strong run of form. They're eyeing up the top 7 places, and their January business has been really good as well. They've got big centre-back Joe Lowen on loan from Bristol City. Robbie Wilmot's coming on loan from Newport County. As Michael Flynn has said, the guy's got really good delivery from wide areas and can play in midfield as well. He's a great squad player to have. Flynn's also going to be reunited, of course, with Jamil Matt, who has been bought from Forest Green Rovers. He got 35 goals in 2 fourth-tier seasons with SGR, and he previously showed as well at Newport County that he's such a handful with his physicality and a direct side. I'd say Matt was probably what Walsall were actually missing in the first half of this season, and now what Walsall are probably missing, you'd have to say, is a Danny Johnson to go alongside him. So if you unite that pair up top at the Bescot, the Sadlers are going to be a real problem, because the rest of that team at full strength looks really good right now. So
I reckon Gillingham will sign Danny Johnson just because they're signing all of Mansfield's players.
Well, the ball's in Mansfield's court, isn't it? He's their player. I wouldn't imagine they use him. Correct.
Yeah, but if you're smart about it at Mansfield, you don't give him back to Walsall.
No.
It just wouldn't make any sense. Currently there's 2 points between them. Walsall have 2 games in hand on Mansfield. They're both pushing and vying for those playoff positions. It would make no sense to let him stay with them.
You wouldn't do them any favours, would you?
No.
So.
No, and actually, you could actually see him going somewhere like Gillingham.
Well, there was Colchester in the mix, wasn't there? But I think that's ended now. There's a lot of talk about where he could end up.
But that kind of level, keep him in League Two because he's clearly capable, but someone that's not bothering you.
I'm fascinated by where it goes, though, because that could make or break Walsall's season. If they get the chance for Danny Johnson and Jamil Matt in the second half of the season, you are justified to give them your dark horse tag, James. I'll tell you that now.
Yeah, don't say that on this part. I've been getting in a lot of trouble for calling them dark.
Shady Zebra.
Shady Zebra.
Crepuscular Mustang of League Two, Walsall Football Club.
Yeah.
We'll see what happens with them. Okay. I'm fascinated by what happens with that Danny Johnson saga. 3 more games I'm going to quickly run through. Mansfield Town 1, Crewe Alexandra 1. Debutant Callum Johnson signed to right back for Ross County. Good signing, I think, for me. His cross turned in by George Maris. Crew got their equaliser. A loose pass led to Kelvin Mellor, their right back, hitting a goal from range. The swerve on this is unbelievable, by the way. It completely catches the goalkeeper off guard. No wonder it ended up going in the net. It was felt quite a speculative effort, but the swerve worked perfectly for them. Mansfield ended the game with 10 men. George Maris given a straight red card, and it finished level at Field Mill. Frustrating result for the Stags, you'd have to say, in their pursuit of the top places. The league leaders, Leyton Orient, drew 0-0 with Barrow at Portman Road. No goals, but 2 yellow cards for fullback Tom James, both in added time. Leyton Orient finished with 10 men. And it also finished ASC Wimbledon 0, Bradford City 0 at Plough Lane. 2 yellow cards. The Bradford City attacking midfielder Jamie Walker, and the Bantams finished that game with 10 men. We'll run through the League 2 table to wrap up this episode. Leyton Orient with their points still lead the way. Of course they do. 57 points in 26 games. Stevenage, who also drew, 52 points in 25 games. Northampton lost. None of the top 3 emerged victorious this weekend. 46 points in 26. They're looking over the shoulder now because they've got basically half the league after their position, and they are the most catchable side. It's not too comfy for the Cobblers at the moment, and injuries aren't helping them either. Carlisle United are 4th, 42 points from 25 games. Salford City 5th, 41 from 25. Swindon Town, after their massive win, 41 points from 26. Bradford City wrap up the playoff places, 40 from 25. You've got Barrow on 40, Mansfield on 39, Stockport County on 37, Walsall on 37, Doncaster on 37, ASC Wimbledon on 36, Sutton on 36, and Tranmere in 15th on 35. Absolute carnage up there at the moment. And hopefully that drops in numbers as the season goes on, and we can start having a better idea about who's actually going to be up there or not. That's our challenge for the rest of the season.
I think I did a daily on this, and it's like 13 teams chasing 4 places.
Yeah,
it's ridiculous.
Utter carnage at the moment. Down the bottom, Gillingham, still bottom, 17 points in 24 games, up to 9 league goals, boys. They're almost at double figures.
Wow, double figures, and only played 24 games.
Yes, but there's so much belief back in it. It's funny to see a team in this kind of situation that just generally is so full of belief now, but that's what this window's doing to them. And I can't imagine they're done yet with their business either, so they're building on that. Hartlepool, the team they beat, in 23rd, 19 points in 25 games. Rochdale, after their defeat to Colchester, 22nd, 20 from 26. Crawley Town, the mess, 22 points in 24 games. Harrogate are 20th on 24. Colchester, after their 3rd straight win, up to 19th on 26, the same as what Newport County have in 18th. That is going to wrap up this episode. Chris, James, thank you very much. I've really enjoyed this one.
It's been a pleasure.
Yeah, no problem. Yeah.
Join us again next week for more from the world's best 3rd and 4th tiers. We'll see you then. Goodbye.